Yoga has been growing in popularity by leaps and bounds, or maybe downward dogs and sun salutations. But there's a demographic that has yet to fully realize its benefits: kids. Teresa Anne Power is a children's yoga expert. She's the author of the ABCs of Yoga for Kids. She joins us today. Hello, Teresa.
Hi, Angela.
And I love yoga, but you know what? I never ever thought of passing my love on when my kids were little. So I'm glad we're having this conversation because maybe a lot of other people are in that same boat. But you've been involved in yoga for many years. Do you remember your first yoga class?
I do. I actually am an attorney as well, and my first yoga class was 30 years ago, and I'll never forget it. And that was when yoga was not popular at all. So, and at that time, it was unheard of for kids to do it as well. And I wish like you are, I wish I had known about yoga when I was a youngster. But yes, I remember my first yoga class, and boy, was it hard.
What drew you to the class?
Well, what really drew me to the class was I was in law school, and I was stressed out. There was so much material to do and everything else. And a friend of mine suggested, well, why don't you just try a yoga class? Well, I thought, well, what have I got to lose? And I really became addicted to it. Honestly, it's what got me through law school. It helped me pass the bar. It was just amazing. I mean, it helped my focus and concentration, helped me get into better shape, and I've been practicing ever since. I mean, I usually practice 4 to 5 days a week regularly for over 30 years.
And that's good to hear, because sometimes people, when it comes to any type of fitness or exercise, they say, I just don't have time for it. And yet you were a busy law student and you still managed to fit it in because you saw the benefits of it.
Well, that's the thing. And also what I really think about yoga is that there's no magic pill about it, but basically if you stick at it and go, you're going to start to see results, and then that makes you want to continue with it. And it's like any sort of exercise routine. You just have to start somewhere and build it into your schedule till it becomes a steady part of your schedule. I mean, that's the main component of it. And it's hard to get started, but once you get started, you just feel so much better, you don't want to give it up.
I think even when I say exercise, sometimes that bothers me, that word, because it's a turnoff for some people, because I think if you do yoga enough, you see it as a different form, because for me, it's a chance for me to stop and concentrate on something else and almost slow my mind while at the same time doing different stretches and becoming more flexible.
Exactly. But the thing is that yoga actually is a form of exercise. I mean, it really, I've been doing a lot of studies on how it helps children with obesity as well, childhood obesity, because I know that people think yoga is for relaxation, to kind of get more flexible, but it also builds strength. For instance, standing on one leg in the tree pose, where you're just standing on one leg and bring the other leg inside your thigh, and then you bring your hands in prayer position in front of your heart. Now, that pose right there, you're grounding into the earth, right? And you're focusing and concentrating, but you're also building some nice muscles in your leg along with it, so the standing leg. So there are exercise benefits to it, but that's not the only component.
Yeah, you're right. I think it strengthens the leg, and also you have to do so much to strengthen your core sometimes when you hold some of those poses. So definitely I would agree with you. And there are so many different types of yoga as well. So that's another thing that people should also look into. But I want to make the transformation then, because you've been doing it for 30 years. When did you start saying, wait, this is great for me. What about kids?
Well, what happened was when my kids were younger, I really did not like practicing law. I didn't feel like it was really fulfilling for me. And so I took a leap of faith and stopped practicing. And then when my kids were younger, I decided I was going to get certified to teach yoga. So when my son was in preschool, I went to his preschool class at the Share Day for Your Career, and I said, I teach yoga, and I did a yoga class there, and they loved it, and the kids loved it. So they kind of decided they were going to start a pilot program with me at this school, and it ended up being this 10 years I worked at that school, teaching yoga to the teachers and to the kids and after school, and I came up with this idea about an ABC yoga book because I started with the preschoolers. And I realized that I had a knack with young children, and I really felt that there was this unmet need for having some sort of physical activity, stress reduction for young children. And it just blossomed into my ABCs of Yoga for Kids book. And then from there, it's just been taken off, and it's been my passion ever since.
Some people might say, yoga and kids, how do you keep them sitting still or standing still?
Well, that's the thing, and that's where it comes back to the exercise component, having fun, because my book is it's an alphabet book. For instance, A is for alligator, B is for bird. It goes through all the letters of the alphabet with different poses and colorful illustrations. Kids love to mimic what they see. So they look at this really fun illustration, for instance, for the bird pose. There is someone demonstrating how to do the bird pose, and there's a bird next to her doing it. So, or the alligator, there's an alligator next to the picture of the person, the little child in the alligator pose. So it makes it fun. And I think that you have to make it lively and fun. You can tell I have a lot of energy and passion and enthusiasm, but the children's yoga is different than adult yoga. A lot of adult yoga teachers are sometimes not as great teaching yoga to kids because it's not the same thing. It's not. Sometimes you'll look at the class and think this is not a calming class, but you always bring the kids back to center on their breath, and then they come back into it to focus. So, but you're giving them times to be able to have fun, like when they're in downward dog pose, they can kind of bark like dogs. So to make it fun so that they develop a passion for it so they want to continue with it rather than making it so boring or so centering that they can't sit still like that. You have to find ways to ignite their passion without them knowing it.
And I like that. Then you're going back to that comment about exercise, because we know what the numbers are like, as you mentioned, with childhood obesity. But this is something that kids can do, and maybe they can even do, they can do at home, right? So it's something that it's not necessarily this organized sporting activity that they have to have all these teammates. It is something that they can have fun at home, working on their flexibility and their different poses.
Exactly, and it's something that they can do with their parents as well, because one common myth is that parents think they have to be flexible to do yoga, and a lot of parents maybe don't do yoga, but it's something fun that they can pick up and do together. And the beauty of the book that I created, this whole exercise system of yoga that I have created, where they get physical activity and calm their minds and bodies at the same time, is that it's very simple and fun and easy to do, and anyone can do it. And that's why I'd like to transition into the Kids Yoga Day that I created that's happening on April 8th. It's all over the world, including Canada and Calgary. I have ambassadors. I have over 100 ambassadors from 41 states and 17 countries. And so all these children are going to be practicing 5 minutes of yoga on that day, on April 8th. And I'm tying this in because I have a specific yoga routine that I suggest people do, and it's so simple. It's 10 poses, and one of them is only standing poses. And parents can do it even if they're not doing it at a specific event or at a school or anywhere else. They can do it at home with their kids. Homeschool kids can do it. And it's just a really great way for people to be able to practice 5 minutes of yoga. So just take 5 minutes out of your day. We were talking earlier about how it's hard to motivate to go to a yoga class or to take the time out of your schedule. But this is just 5 minutes to kind of spark something in kids to want to practice more.
I want to get more details on Yoga Day, April 8th, but I also want to go back to the breathing. As you say, you always kind of remind kids or anyone who's doing yoga to get back, center it in your breathing. What are the benefits of that? Because I think even anyone listening, if they're in a vehicle or they're wandering around, it's, wait a minute, have I really taken a nice deep breath today? We don't breathe enough.
We don't breathe enough, and if we do breathe, and sometimes kids, if we're upset, we start breathing through our mouth, and so that really simulates the fight or flight response and makes the symptoms work. You can hyperventilate. So it's really important, especially if someone right now is listening and they're in their car. It's easy to practice. You just take a deep breath in through your nose and just feel like all the way from your belly, just kind of breathing in through your nose, and then hold it for a minute, and then exhale slowly through your nose again. So it's this nasal breathing as opposed to mouth breathing.
And what's the difference there, Teresa? Because people might not understand that.
Well, yeah. Well, the difference is that, right, when you're doing it that way, especially when practicing yoga is, especially when you're doing the yoga poses, but just any time when you need to calm yourself, by doing that, you're getting more oxygen into your lungs. And by breathing out through your nose as opposed to your mouth, right, it's slowing down the breath. So, in other words, you're just taking a deep breath in through your nose and then slowly out through your nose. It just starts to calm your breath. It also focuses your mind on your breathing. And it's just a really great way to get more oxygen, like I said, into your brain and to start to slow down and really focus on what you're doing. If you're just doing the shallow, mouth breathing is very shallow, because it's only in your chest. Whereas if you're taking that deep breath in through your nose all the way down into your stomach, it's really circulating that breath throughout your entire body. And it can really shift your mood very fast.
Yeah, and then you can see that's the benefits for kids, adults, anyone, because if you find yourself in an overwhelming situation, think about getting back to your breathing. All right, when you talked about April 8th, a Kids Yoga Day, is there a website people can go for more information? Or even when you talk about the 5 minutes with 10 poses, how can people find out more about that?
Yes, they can go. It's all on the website. It's all free, downloadable. The routine is downloadable. It's on it's kidsyogaday.com.
Easy enough. Kidsyogaday.com. Teresa Anne, I hope you have a great day on April 8th, and thanks for telling us all about yoga for kids and everyone.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much, Angela, for having me.
Teresa Anne Power, she is a children's yoga expert, and she is the author of The ABCs of Yoga for Kids.